Hi, good day students. So for today, I will be discussing about the quarter 3 of week 2. Milk M9GE-3IC-1. Proving theorems on different kinds of parallelogram. Okay, for the objective of this lesson, so we have to define the special parallelogram, rectangle, square, and rhombus. Second is, we're going to prove the theorems on rectangle, rhombus, and square using the two-column proof. And lastly, we're going to apply the theorems on the given problem in special parallelogram. Okay, so what are the theorems that we're going to prove? Okay, so first one, the diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. Second, the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular to each other. Third, each diagonal of a rhombus bisects its opposite angle. And lastly, in a square, each diagonal forms two congruent isosceles right triangles. Okay, so if you're going to observe the theorems that I mentioned a while ago, meron dong nabanggit na tatlong quadrilateral, okay? Or the three parallelograms, okay? The rectangle, the rhombus, and square. So silang tatlo yung nabanggit. Now, they are considered as the special types of parallelogram because they have the distinct characteristic of their diagonals, okay? So, recall muna natin, ano nga ba si square, ano si rhombus, and ano si square? So, a rectangle is a parallelogram with 4 right angles. So, alam naman natin, lahat ng angles ni rectangle are 90 degree. So, therefore, in this figure, we have angle W, angle I, angle S, and angle E are right angle. So, right angle, again, measures 90 degree. A rhombus is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. So, 4 congruent sides, so all of the sides are equal. So, you have WI is congruent to IS, congruent to SE, and congruent to EW. So, if the measure of the side WI is 5, lahat ng sides ni rhombus is also 5. Okay? Lastly, we have the square. A square is a parallelogram with 4 right angles and 4 congruent sides. So, we have the figure W, I, S, and E. W, I, S, and E are right angle, and W, I is congruent to IS, congruent to SE, and congruent to EW. Okay? Okay, so let's have this first theorem. A parallelogram is a rectangle if and only if its diagonal are congruent. So, masasabi mo na ang given parallelogram ay isang rectangle kapag ang diagonal niya ay congruent or equal. Okay? So, let's have the given. BEST is a rectangle with diagonal BS and ET. So, we're going to prove that BS is congruent kay ET. Using the two-column proof, for the first statement is BEST is a rectangle. So, for the reason given. Okay? Given kasi it was illustrated here. So, BEST is a rectangle. Okay? Okay, second. BT is congruent kay ES. Okay? Again, BT is congruent to ES. Reason, opposite side of a parallelogram are congruent. Okay? So, BT, congruent daw siya kay ES. Next, angle T and angle S are right angle. A rectangle has 4 right angles. So, alam naman natin, kapag rectangle, lahat ng angles niya ay right angle or 90 degree. So, therefore, you can say that angle T, this angle, is congruent to angle S. So again, angle T is congruent to angle S. Reason, all right angle are congruent. Next, angle TS, the side TS is congruent to the same side which is TS. using the reflexive property. So this side. So if you're going to observe, you have given the side, the angle, and the side. Therefore, you can use the Sas Congruence Postulate or the side angle side. So therefore, you can say that the triangle BTS, this triangle, is congruent to the triangle EST. So this triangle. So therefore, you can say that the BS, CBS, or the side BS, the side, is congruent to the side ET. Using the CPCTC, or the corresponding parts of congruent triangle are congruent. And if you're going to observe BS and ET, sila yung diagonal na kailangan natin prove. Okay? So therefore, na-prove na natin siya. Okay? So, ibig sabihin lang nito that the given rectangle or the given parallelogram is a rectangle. Okay, so using the theorem, let's have this example. Okay? So example, given that you have the rectangle MINE is a rectangle, so we're going to identify the missing parts. Okay? So you have MI is congruent to, okay, that is correct. The answer is EN. Okay? EN. And you have ME is congruent to IN. Now, what is on? Because the opposite side of a parallelogram are congruent. Okay? Next, number 2. For number 2, you have angle E is equal to, okay, the answer is 90 degree. Because a rectangle has 4 right angles. Number 3, MN is congruent to, okay, that is IE. Because diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. Number 4, if MN, si MN daw, is 5 cm, then IE is also 5 cm. So the reason is the diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. Okay, so for the second theorem, a parallelogram is a rhombus if and only if its diagonal are perpendicular to each other. So, kailangan lang natin mapakita dito na yung diagonal niya daw dapat perpendicular para masabi natin na yung parallelogram natin ay isang rhombus. So, we have here the given. Given, you have BEST is a rhombus with diagonal BS and ET. So, we're going to prove that BS is perpendicular to ET. So, you have here the figure BEST and the intersection of the two diagonals is I. Okay? So we have here the proof, we have the statement and the reason. So we have the BEST is a rhombus, that is our given. Second, so you have here BT is congruent to BE. So BT is congruent to BE. The reason, the rhombus has 4 congruent sides. So this side is congruent to this side. Okay? Next, statement number 3. You have BI is congruent to BI. So this side is congruent to this side. So parehas lang because of the reflexive property. Next, you have TI is congruent to EI because the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. So since they bisect each other, this side or this segment is congruent to this segment. Okay? So therefore, you have the triangle BIT. This triangle is congruent to the triangle BIE. So this triangle. Okay? So for the reason, you have Sss Congruence Postulate. So since they are congruent, you can say that the angle BIT, this angle, is congruent to the angle BIE. So this angle. So that is the CPCTC. So since you have BIT and the angle BIE form a linear pair, so the reason, definition of the linear pair. So you have the BIT and then the BIE. So they are supplementary angle. So since they are supplementary angle, they are forming a 180 degree. So you have BIT and BIE are right angle. So if the two angles are congruent and supplementary, then each is a right angle. So you can say that the BS, so the side BS, or this diagonal BS, is perpendicular to ET. Okay? So, napakita na natin that they are perpendicular, or the diagonals of the rhombus are perpendicular. So, pwede na natin masabi that the parallelogram BEST is a rhombus. Okay? Okay, so for the example in this theorem, so we have the MINE is a rhombus. So the intersection of their diagonal is U. So you have MI is congruent to IF. It is also congruent to NE. It is also congruent to ME. Okay. Now, what is the reason? Because a rhombus has 4 congruent sides. Okay? So, lahat ng sides ni rhombus is congruent to each other. If the measure of MI is 5, same with IN, same with NE, same with ME, lahat sila 5 ang measure. Next, you have the MN. MN is perpendicular to, okay, the answer is IE. Okay? The reason, because the diagonals of the rhombus are perpendicular to each other. If MN is 16 centimeter, then what is the measure of MU and MU? So their measure is 8 cm and 8 cm. Okay, so same sila as 8 cm because the reason the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. Okay, so let's have this another theorem about the rhombus. A parallelogram is a rhombus if and only if each diagonal bisect a pair of opposite angle. So, kanina, we have the diagonal bisect each other. Ngayon naman, si diagonal, ang binabisect niya yung opposite angle. Okay? So, we have here the BEST is a rhombus. We have to prove that BS ay binabisect niya si angle B and angle S. Again, from the word bisect, ibig sabihin, hatiin niya into congruent angle si angle B and also with angle S. So, we have here the figure BEST. Tulad nga ng sinabi ko, yung we have to prove, so this one is the diagonal BS. So, ang kailangan natin i-prove that B, angle B, and angle S ay ibabisect niya. Okay? So, we have here the two-column proof. So, for the first statement, we have BEST is a rhombus. Okay, reason given. So, we have side BT is congruent to side BE, congruent to ES, and congruent to TS. Reason, a rhombus has 4 congruent sides. Now, we have here the BS, or side BS, is congruent to BS, so using the reflexive property. Next, therefore you can say that you have the triangle BTS. This triangle is congruent to the triangle BES. So this triangle, okay? Reason, you have the side congruence postulate, or the SSS. Now, we have here the angle 1. Angle 1 is is congruent to angle 2, and angle 3 is congruent to angle 4, or all angles are congruent, okay? Using the CPCTC. So therefore, you can say that the BS bisect the angle B and angle S. Okay? Hinati niya yung angle into congruent parts. Okay? So, ibig sabihin lang nito, let's say, the measure of this angle, let's say the measure is 80 degree. Same with this angle, 80 degree, because the opposite angles are congruent. So, since meron kang diagonal which is na binisect yung angle natin, therefore, you have the angle 1 measure 40 degree, and you have angle 2 also measure 40 degree. Okay, so let's have the example on this theorem. Given you have the GIVE as a rhombus, so you have the GB bisect angle. Sino yung binabisect ni diagonal GB? Again, ito si GB natin. Okay? So, ang binisect niyang angle, that is the angle G and the angle B. So, the diagonal of your rhombus bisect a pair of opposite angles. So, that is the reason. Okay, next, you have the IE. So, if you have the diagonal IE, sino naman yung binabisect niya? So, binisect niya is the angle E and angle I. Okay? So, same reason. So, diagonal of your rhombus bisect a pair of opposite angles. Next, you have the GB. Si GB is perpendicular to, okay, that is correct. So, you have the IE. Because the diagonal of rhombus are perpendicular. Now, if your angle G is 70 degree, so 70 degree daw yung kabuuan ni angle G. Now, the question is, what is the measure of angle 1? The measure is, okay, that is 35 degree. And the angle 2 is also 35 degree. And you have the angle B. Si angle B, anong measure niya? Same with 70 degree because the opposite angles are congruent. Okay? Again, diagonals of a rhombus bisect opposite angles. Okay, and lastly, we have this theorem. A parallelogram is a square if and only if diagonals are congruent, perpendicular, and bisect a pair of opposite angles. So, if BEST is a square, then you have the BS is congruent to ET, BS bisect ET, BS bisect angle B and angle S, and TE bisect angle E and angle E. So, pinakagumawa ng proof about this one kasi if you're going to observe, lahat ng mga pinrove natin about the rectangle and rhombus, lahat yan nandito kay square. So, etong part na to, I will make this one para gawin nyo as your task. Okay? So, let's have this example. Okay, so let's have this example about the square. So, you have the GEOM as a square. The intersection of their diagonal is U. So, you have the GE is congruent to, okay, EO. Also congruent to OM and congruent to MG. Again, the reason, a square has 4 congruent sides. So, lahat ng sides niya are equal. Next, you have the measure of angle M. Measure of angle M is 90 degree. The reason, all angles of a square are right angle. Okay? Lahat ng measure niya is right 90 degree. Same with the angle O, angle E, and angle G. Next, you have GU. GU is congruent to UO. And you have MU is congruent to UE. Okay? The reason, the diagonals of a square bisect each other. Okay? Binisect nila isa't isa, so therefore, they are equal. Next, you have the diagonal GO. Okay, diagonal GO, again, this diagonal, binisect nyo si angle G at si angle O. And you have ME, another diagonal, this diagonal ME, bisect angle M and angle E. Okay, for the reason, the diagonals of a square bisect a pair of opposite angles. Next, you have the GO. Is perpendicular siya kay ME. Okay? And the GO is also congruent to ME because the reason, the diagonals of a square are congruent and perpendicular. Okay, let's try this example. Okay, same. Given that you have GEOM is a square. So, if the measure of GM, so kung mapapansin nyo, given natin is 2x plus 1. Okay? And our GE is x plus 9. Now, we're going to find the value of x, GM, GE, EO, and MO. So, ang hinahanap is the measure of all sides. So, paano natin siyang makukuha, ma'am, if yung given natin ay meron pang x? So, first thing that we're going to do is to solve for the value of x. So, we're going to equate the GM is equal to GE. So, we equate these two sides kasi nga, all sides of the square are congruent. So, GM is 2x plus 1 and the GE is x plus 9. Okay, using the addition property of equality, so, we're going to subtract both sides by negative x or pagsamahin natin yung mga like terms. So, you have here the 2x minus x is equal to 9 minus 1. Okay? So, therefore, 2x minus x, it will become x and you have 9 minus 1, that is 8. Since you have the value of x, which is 8, you're going to substitute on the value of GM. So, you have the GM is 2x plus 1. So, replace nyo lang si x by 8. So, 2 times 8 plus 1. What is 2 times 8? That is 16 plus 1. Okay? So, for the value of GM, that is 17. Kuha po ba? Next, try natin kay GE. If they have the same. So, GE is x plus 9. So, you have the x which is 8 plus 9. 8 plus 9, that is also 17. So, that is the value of GE. So, if you're going to observe GM and GE are the same, which is 17 yung measure. So, therefore, if GM is 17, GE is 17, so you can say that EO is also 17 and MO is also 17 because, again, all sides of the square are congruent. Okay, thank you for listening on my topic. Hope you understand my lesson. Again, I'm Ma'am Janine Dimasana, your Mathematics 9 teacher. Okay, see you on next topic. Bye. Thank you.